Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the next installment of Coffee Break. This week, me and Steve are breaking down some of the most common questions that we kind of get here at AvidMax, whether it be about fly lines, tying, gear, you name it. We're always happy to kind of pitch our 2 cents on most things and kind of help all you guys out.
Yeah, we're going to break off a big chunk of those questions we got through Fly Tying Month and shoot some answers and opinions your way.
Oh, yeah.
When would you suggest to use a polyleader versus adding split shot to your rig? What brand and model of polyleader would you recommend for lakes versus streams, different bodies of water, etc.?
Okay, so I think, the short answer to this is I don't think that necessarily any brand of polyleader or lightweight, castable, removable sink tip is necessarily better than the other. I think they all are plenty, versatile. You can use them in a variety of different situations. But I think the biggest thing you're going to find, coming back to specifically the question of polyleader versus split shot, I think, using a polyleader when you're doing something like streamer fishing, you're actively engaging and moving and giving your fly action and movement in the water. I think the polyleader is definitely the winner in that case. If you're nymphing, for example, I'd be throwing, split shot, certainly. One thing that you're going to find just from a castability standpoint is when you add a lot of weight to a small singular point on your rig, whether it be a heavy fly or a split shot, your loop and your line can kind of get a little squirrely, and then that's kind of when the whole chuck and duck kind of situation kind of comes out. So
Totally. And if this question was specifically directed at fishing streamers, polyleader versus split shot, if I can make my weight something that's castable and it's going to turn over well and use a polyleader, I'm probably going to go for that or change the weight of the streamer before I add that split shot and create a hinge point in the system.
Totally. Absolutely.
Yeah. What are the real life differences for double taper and weight forward lines?
Well, both, those are really the two options that you're going to find, within fly line design. A shooting taper, for those of you who may be wondering, shooting tapers are just kind of overindulged weight forward lines, okay? So realistically, from a practical user standpoint, the vast majority of fly lines in this day and age are going to be designed in a weight forward manner. They're a very operator-friendly type of design. They're designed to load your rod quick, so you don't have to sit there and throw a million false casts to get enough weight to load your rod to get it to go. Double tapers have a lot of benefit. Obviously, for those of you who may not know, double tapers are quite literally a taper here and a taper here, and they're mirrored. So one of the best things about a double taper is you can, realistically fish the first, 30 to 50 feet, which is really 99% of your trout fishing. You can literally fish that, flip your line around when it gets beaten up, and you have a brand new line. The other benefit to it, because the taper is elongated and there's so much length in there, and it's not like this big meaty sausage and then it stops, you're able to actually carry an immense amount of line. So for those of you who do enjoy throwing really long bellied lines and lines that just have a very long taper to them, give it a shot. It's not gonna just cannonball out there like your weight forward and your shooting tapers are, but any advanced and experienced caster will tell you that's not going to stop you from actually sending a lot of line. And I fish, most of my lines in the grand scheme of things are actually longer in terms of the whole taper and the head. So just something to experiment around with.
The gradual stuff is user friendly and really castable throughout the whole length of it.
I think a lot of people too used to just associate double taper with bamboo, and that's fine. But realistically, graphite and just rod design in general has come so far. I fish high-end rods that are typically pretty fast myself, and I love fishing longer belly lines, like I said. So definitely experiment with them. Yep.
Cool. So you're telling me I shouldn't fish an 8-weight outbound short on my 7-foot 3-weight bamboo rod?
No, you should definitely do that. It's a terrible idea.
Make their repair center a lot of money by doing that.
It's a great way to go to the doctor.
Well, Dave, I have another one for you. What's the best line for all-around dry fly and nymphing?
I think this answer is nothing more than an opinion, but my personal 2 cents is I absolutely love the Scientific Angler's Trout Taper. They offer it in the Mastery Series as well as the Amplitude Smooth and the Amplitude Texture. Hands down, probably the number one line I fish. As I said in the prior answer, I like longer tapers in my lines. I like carrying line. I like being able to control and mend my line too. So from a practical nymphing standpoint, you're able to mend very easily. It gives you a lot of control and governance over the line and the slack as it's coming through, so you get good drifts. And also because it's so long and it's not overweighted, the long taper element to it gives you an immense amount of control when you're really trying to make a really delicate, presentable cast with a dry fly. Comes down nice and soft. It doesn't just like slap the water. It wants to kind of elegantly go out, turn over, and kind of sit down, which it just adds a nice level of stealth to the whole casting. So
For sure.
yeah.
Good stuff.
Heck yeah, man. Definitely check it out. Personally, I like the texture more than I like the smooth, but hey, you know, that's just me.
Different strokes. So Dave, what makes a quality fly line? What's the real difference between a $100 fly line and a $30 fly line? Are we buying the brand?
Well, you know, within fly line design, like anything in life, the more you pay, typically, the better it is. Now, that being said, whether you're a Rio fan, an SA fan, an Airflow fan, a Cortland fan, to each their own. I think what it really comes down to is the different tiers that you'll find. With the high-end guys, you get durability, shootability, floatability. Pretty much it's a win across the board.
Yeah.
When you get low-end fly lines, do they work? Sure. Are they the most durable? No. And eventually you're gonna end up needing to buy a new line. So oftentimes if you're fishing heavily, you're just gonna be going through fly lines, and you might as well just save yourself the hassle, just buy one nice line and opposed to a couple kind of clunkers. Again, if you're just getting into it, that's okay. You're gonna beat up that fly line anyway, not a big deal. But as far as if you take it seriously, you really love it, you really enjoy it, and you don't wanna spend time buying extra gear over and over and over again, just save yourself the hassle, buy a high-end line. You know, any angler who's been fishing for a long time is gonna tell you a high quality fly line goes leaps and bounds in terms of performance, fishability, and overall experience within, you know, your day of fishing. And if you're going traveling, say you're going tarpon fishing or you're going bonefish fishing, you spend all this time and money going on this trip, the least you could do is buy a nice line, because when the chips are on the table, it's really gonna count.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
In order of importance, like I put fly line above like the reel, and in some cases, you know, maybe even the rod. You know, the rod is not necessarily going to make you a better caster, but a fly line is going to not make you a better caster, but as far as things that are possible with the setup that you have, that fly line is going to carry a lot more weight in things that you are able to do effectively with your setup.
I always describe fly lines basically as tread on your car. It doesn't really matter how nice your car is.
You drive a Ferrari.
If you've got ball tires and you're driving in winter and time, Colorado, man, it's just like, I don't care how much your $60,000 truck is, you know, it's not going to drive great, is it? Versus, you know, some clunker, but it's got a pair of really nice snow tires on it. It's like, well, hey, man, it gets you from point A to point B, and you're not, you know, squirrely all over the road. So, again, at the end of the day, a good quality fly line just is 100% worth it.
All right, Dave, how do I select the right streamer line for river stream fishing for trout?
Okay, so a couple things to note. I think you know, disregard the manufacturer. I think there's plenty of nice manufacturers. What I will say is A, how big are the flies that you're throwing? And B, how deep or not deep are we trying to get this? So where are we presenting the fly in the water column? If you're trying to really get the thing down, A, you wanna have a sink tip that's going to be ample enough to get you down. So like type 3 is kind of where I would say is like the lightest and least sinking rate that I would even consider. But even sink tip lines that go into sink 5 and sink 7, they are kind of advantageous because they get you into the strike zone. They keep you in the strike zone, especially in swifter water. They want to stay planted down there. It's definitely a nice thing. If your fly also is on the larger side, so you're throwing a big gaudy fly, you know, I think throwing a line that has a pretty aggressive taper to it, so kind of like a shooting taper of a head on there, is really going to allow that fly to go out, turn over. It also allows the caster the ability to really govern and control the line through the whole casting stroke. If you want some versatility, I I think personally, most trout rivers are not crazy deep. They really are not the deepest rivers. There are some that are plenty deep, I get that. But most of them are, you know, you're fishing streamers in what, like 8 feet of water tops a lot of the time. And a lot of the time, as the year progresses, you'll find some of those bigger fish will actually kind of come up more shallow.
Right on the edge.
So I don't think you always necessarily have to have a full-blown sink tip line, which it's a one-trick pony. All it does is throw streamers in a sinking fashion. Fishing a floating line that is on the more aggressive side as far as the head and the tapers is concerned, but paired with a variety of different poly leaders will actually get you very far.
Yep.
You know, I am a huge fan of that. I do a lot of trout spay fishing. Poly leaders are like the bread and butter of the whole swinging world. So the reason for it is I can go to a river one day and, you know, be fishing on the Colorado, and I say I need to really get that fly down deep. I can throw a fast sinking poly leader in a variety of different lengths. I can throw that in there. Fish is great. And later in the year, I can go to the same run, and instead of trying to focus on the deeper water, I can really focus on those shallower runs, little riffles, up hugging close to the bank. I can rip that poly leader off, and I can now all of a sudden replace it with something that is like an intermediate, even a floating poly leader. There's a lot of versatility to be had when you really, you know, kind of introduce the idea of a sinking leader, not like a full-blown tip, but a sinking leader. And how does that allow, you know, the versatility of different fishing scenarios?
Yeah.
So
if you wanted to, you could make a lot of sinking line scenarios obsolete by carrying a variety of poly leaders. Like I made it because I was cheap. I made it years with a floating line and a poly leader with one sink rate and did lakes, rivers, I did some still water. I used it in salt water. All over the place with just like this one line and this one poly leader and caught several species and several types of water.
Yeah, well, and I mean, we just started carrying Airflow. We have their entire Airflow poly leader set that you can purchase, both in kind of salmon weights, which is a stronger, heavier core, as well as in trout weights. So feel free to, you know, experiment with that. If you really wanted a lot of versatility, you only want to buy one line and have all these options for sink tips, definitely consider that because it's a fantastic solution.
All right, moving on. Dave, when should I double haul?
When should you double haul? Oh man, you should double haul when you want to send line to the moon. No, I'm sorry. It's kind of a... All right, look, so double hauling does many things, okay? It speeds up the line. It's the biggest advantage that you're gonna have, especially when you're doing something like salt fishing, you're trying to get distance. Allowing that line to kind of speed up is certainly gonna help it go farther. Also, when it's windy, it does tend to kind of give you a little bit of leeway. You know, if you've got this real lax cast, oftentimes the wind kind of gets a hold of everything and kind of pushes it off. So now you're not tracking right when you're casting. I think at the end of the day, double hauling is most used by salt anglers and folks who are trying to really send line a pretty great distance. But, you know, would I necessarily throw a dry fly with a double haul, you know, trying to throw it 90 feet? No, not really. So try to kind of think in terms of like, well, how far am I trying to get this fly? And on top of that, if I did get my fly that far, am I really even going to be able to set the hook? So realistically, I only really double haul when I'm trying to get distance with a streamer, typically salt fishing, maybe from the bank of a lake or something like that, trying to get it out there. But really, in a nutshell, I am streamer fishing. I don't really double haul when I'm throwing dry flies. I just don't find there to be a need. So
if you have casting mistakes without double hauling, don't double haul. It's gonna accentuate your casting mistakes. So once you can cast consistently without getting bad tailing loops or you know, just kind of breaking down your loops when you're not double hauling, once you kind of like progress and you want to add in that next ingredient, that's a good time to start double hauling.
Yeah, 100%. Also, just from a standpoint of, you know, a practical fishing scenario, in the event that like you're fishing like a flat, or you say you're fishing, you know, the edge of a lake and you see a fish out there and it's moving, it's on the cruise, right? It's moving either sometimes towards you, that's always nice, but let's say hypothetically it's moving away, or it's moving in a way that like you gotta get your fly there. Double hauling will allow you to really get that fly out of your hand, drop it, start slipping line, really speed up the line to kind of shorten the amount of false casts you're gonna have to get the back of your head out to actually throw and cast and shoot your line. So double hauling kind of speeds that up a little bit. So in the event that, you know, oftentimes when people are boom fishing, they're like, there's a fish over there, you got to be able to drop it, slip line, throw 3, maybe 4 false casts, and get the line out there, get the fly to the fish, be fishing, because, you know, before you know it, the fish could be out of casting distance, you could have lost it. There's a million things that could have happened. So it just kind of speeds up that whole rhythm.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning into this Q&A, guys. We took a big chunk out of it here today, and there's certainly more. There's also a lot of video topic suggestions that we've received, and, you know, hang tight for those, because we're probably going to be making some full-length videos on some of those great suggestions that we've got throughout the month here. And always, you know that you can leave a comment, you know, outside of Fly Time Month. You can send us an email, drop a comment here on one of these videos, social media, whatever the case may be, and we're happy to address it here on the channel.
Yeah, totally. Keep them coming. You know, like, comment, subscribe, do whatever. We always appreciate the support, and we love helping each of you kind of on your own little journey and path coming up and fly fishing. And we're always happy to kind of give our 2 cents, you know?
Absolutely, guys. Thanks for watching.
Cheers.